Well, my mother was a very small, petite lady, but she grew up in New York City. She lost her parents when she was 13, and she went to live from up in the country, about 60 miles out of New York City. She went to live in New York City with an aunt. And she left school in the 7th grade, and she worked in what they call the garment district. Have any of you studied anything about that part of history, the garment district in New York? Well, even today, it's pretty tough. It's a tough area. Anyway, she learned to be a seamstress, and she, you know, and as I grew up, I guess some of that was helpful because in raising chickens in those days, you bought feed in sacks that were of different kinds of print. And so she would take, and all the women did this, they'd take those feed sacks and they would make dresses for the girls and shirts for us, for the boys. So when I got into a little further along in school, I think I became known as the shirt. My father was a man's man, so to speak. There was the good and the bad and the ugly with him. And if you ever see the picture of the Empire State Building when it was being constructed, and those guys that are sitting out on the beam, my father is number 4 on that beam. He was a constructional steel worker, and he was the foreman for the top 25 floors of the Empire State Building. I can't even imagine doing that. But he served in the Navy in World War I. He had 4 ships sunk out from under him and 21 crossings from New York to France and England. So yeah, he had some pretty nasty experiences. I was in the Korean War, but a lot of my buddies and fellows that I work with are primarily Vietnam veterans and Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan, and other parts of the world where there is conflict. I can't imagine. You know, when I was in the Korean conflict, they called it a conflict. There was no difference in my mind what was going on than what went on in World War II. I mean, it's a very nasty, terrible thing that man does to each other. But if you want your freedom, you know, what are you going to do? Because there are a lot of nasty people out there, and they will take that freedom away from you. The last 6 months of active duty, I was on a destroyer, and we were sailing off the coast of the North Korea, and our job was to monitor the firepower. And being the type of ship we were running very, very close to shore, and we were running firepower to cover the evacuation at that time for the Marines and the Army that were coming out, and they were being picked up. And my personal experience was very, very frightening. We were cruising waters that we knew that they had laid mines, but we were told that there was a minesweeper went through to clear it. We hoped that they were successful because a destroyer is a minesweeper only one time. Do you understand that one?
Nothing to elaborate on.
Okay. If on a destroyer, which is a very long, narrow ship and somewhat fast, very heavily armed. If you hit a mine, you're done. It's gone. We got hit 4 times from shore battery. My office on ship was hit by a shell that didn't explode, just destroyed my office. I was on the bridge, which was my general quarters, to be when you're going in and out of port or under conflict. I was on the bridge because I was in charge of fire control. Well, currently my focus right now is what I'm doing as the donation coordinator for the Purple Heart, raising money for a good cause for these veterans. It isn't just necessarily veterans who are wounded, or, you know, we don't define it as that. These are all veterans. Some of them never saw combat. They're still veterans. You still need a support. You can't put a man or a woman on the front lines without a very large team behind them. And if you're in aviation, nothing is really more clearly defined in aviation than a teamwork, because those airplanes don't fly unless you got a whole lot of people that know what they're doing.
Hello, my name is David Pineda.
Hi, my name is Yasmin Sotelo.
Hi, my name is Mario Abos.
Hi, my name is Emily Magana.
Hi, I'm Sean Reese.
Hi, I'm Tyler.
I was actually accepted to University of Davis in the summer that my husband proposed to me. And I always wanted to be a housewife. I always wanted to have kids. So I made the choice not to go to college and to stay home. And my major was psychology. That was what I was gearing towards. And being in a family, my kids being at home, there's a lot of psychology in life anyway. And if I left my mind open to reading and studying those concepts, it was more about me that I really wanted to do in psychology, not other people. You know, I was interested in understanding myself. They were very physically demanding. It is like you literally wake up one day and your life has turned a corner. And so I was not depressed initially when I was disabled. The first question I asked them when they told me that I was paralyzed from the waist down, well, I asked them if I could still have babies. That was my main thing. I didn't care if I'd ever walk again. You know, wheelchair can get me from here to there. I wanted to still have babies. You know, so that was my big thing. So depression, is that what you were asking about?
I just wanted to see how you felt like when...
Well, because I had to go through a physical rehab process, they have these hospitals that after you physically heal, like I had a broken back, they had to do surgery on it, and that was, you know, that was difficult. But right after that, they get you up and going. And so it's all day, every day. You have to, it's so much work. It's like dragging around. So you have to learn to work with the lower half of your body that's not functioning, you know, on its own. So it was really tiring, and it was so many different activities that I never thought I would have to learn. You know, how to move my leg, how to transfer in and out of bed, or in and out, or learning how to drive a car with like this. So all of that was like the first few months, and so it was like learning a whole new way of life. So exhausting. It was in the spring, right about now, and I was riding a motorcycle, had a clear face shield on it. When I came around the corner, I came around this corner, there were trees. I was way up in the mountains south of San Francisco. And I came around a corner, the trees ended, and there was the sun right in my face. And so I couldn't even see the road. I couldn't see anything. So I was on a curve. I knew I was on a curve, so I kept curving the bike even though I couldn't see, but I just barely went off parallel to the road. My bike landed, and I rolled down into a ravine. And this was up near Stanford Hospital. And I was discovered by, my boyfriend was on another bike, and we were supposed to meet up ahead, and I never made it, so he was going back and forth looking for me, and I could hear him, but he couldn't see me down there. Finally, there was a guy just jogging along this road, and I'm like, yelled out to him, and he said, I can see your bike, but I can't see you, and finally he found me, and he was a doctor from Stanford, out jogging on his lunch break, right? Now this is pre-cell phone, nothing. As he comes up, he's like, I'm gonna go get you help. He comes up onto the road. There's a volunteer fireman driving by that had a CB radio in his truck. So they called an ambulance, and I was like 5 minutes away from Stanford down the hill. So they were there right away. But everybody ended up with a full-blown body case of poison oak because of where I landed. Yeah, so I was crazy motorcycle. I think you need help outside of yourself. A lot of people rely on themselves, and people don't know what they don't know. That's my saying. It's probably many people's saying, but you don't know what you don't know. So being open is gonna help you the most, because it's a challenging life. The body was not designed to live in a wheelchair. It was designed to stand upright. So there are things that come along with being in a wheelchair that are degenerative from the position that your body's in. And I think that learning to let my guard down and allow people to help me, but not be lazy in that help. Does that make sense? Yeah. Not let them do it all, but you do need help sometimes. You can't do it all yourself.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Escandon.
Hi, my name is Lydia Tapia.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Nunez.
Hi, my name is Giovanni Valencia.
Hi, my name is Clement Toker.
Hi, my name is Maria Ruiz.
When you're in gangs, you got like your own little square, and this may sound weird, but it's like that's all that you know. It's like you're in a box. All of my drugs, all of my homeboys, all of the girls I would kick it with, everything was in this box. And like, even to just travel outside of California, or to go places, or to do things that normal people would enjoy doing in life, it's like you don't even think about that, It's like, what do I need to go over there for? Or everything that I have is right here, And so I remember for the first time when I was able to travel out of California even, it was just like, other people around me were like, what are you so happy about? Like, we're just going, you know what I mean? And to me, it was like, no, you don't understand. Like, I lived so long in a little box that it feels so good, So it's affected me in such a positive way, to where a lot of people would take things for granted, and it's just a part of their lifestyle. For others, it's a big deal, And so it's definitely been a positive change. It affected my high school life. I went to at least 5 or 6 different high schools, getting kicked out for various different reasons. But so it affected my high school life a lot. I was never involved in like school academics or school life, sports or dances or prom or any kind of school activity. So my whole high school life was a big blur. Like a lot of it, to tell you the truth, like I don't even, for what I remember about high school is just fights, drinking at the park, going to school at lunch, trying to get as many people as I could to leave with me to go back to the park, just going to house, kickbacks. And so it affected my high school. Like I really wish I would have had a high school life, you know, and I can never go back and have that, obviously, you know. But I wish I would have like got connected into school academics and things like that. So that affected that. It affected my family a lot. I remember I would come home. I didn't have any relationship with my two youngest sisters. I would come home after 3 days, you know, on drugs or doing whatever. My mom, you know, crying at night, you know, wondering where her son's at. I would finally come home and my sisters would run up to me and, you know, they're real young, just, you know, Joey, you know, and just, you know, that type of like, I didn't know my family, you know, and it just totally ripped me away from what I was looking for. I got involved in the streets to find a family, but here I had a great family this whole time that the streets took me away from, you know? And it took me a long time to figure out that the people that loved me the most, I was hurting, you know? And the people that I ended up in the end finding out that a lot of them weren't really there for me were the ones that I was spending most of my time with, doing a lot of things that I regret today, you know? So it affected me a lot. It affected me a whole lot. So when I got out, like I used to rap when I was out there in the streets, you know, just in parties or just freestyling, whatever. Like, so I really liked rap music, and so I was even when I was in high school, I really wanted to go to a college in Emeryville. I forgot what it's called, but it was to produce music and stuff. That was going to be one of my, I thought, ways to change my life. I messed that up too, but I really loved music. So when I changed and I gave my life to the Lord and everything, I got out, and right away I wanted to do positive music. So I started doing positive music, and there was some young people in the church at that time that were also rapping, and they were doing positive rap music. So I connected with them right away, and we began to, you know, do music together. Well, it came to be an album. Like we made like a legit album, and we got to travel, like I said, a lot of different places, doing this concert and giving this message in music, you know, and by that, it began to kind of open me up to being able to like help others, like, you know what I mean? Because I seen like the effect it had on young people, as far as that, like they loved the music, they loved the message behind it, and they loved like, you know, hearing what we had to say. So I think that began to kind of turn me on to like, wow, you know, like we can really like help people, you know? And from there, I just wanted to get deeper into it, you know? So after the music was there, I got involved in the youth ministry that they had at the church, and getting involved in the youth ministry, I was able to help a lot there. And then just little by little, you know, working with the leaders and stuff, they seen something in me I didn't see in myself, and they gave me an opportunity. And it's been awesome. You know, I've been able to grow in that, and now even, you know, I got to a place where I was able to help youth ministries in Northern California go and help to pour into other leaders, even, you know, to help their youth ministries to grow. So it's just been a cool process of growing at every stage, you know, and now being at a place where I'm able to help leaders and young people to develop, you know, youth ministries, you know, for young people. And we reach like a certain type of young people, and that's what I love about our ministry. We specifically target, you know, gang members or families that have been affected by drugs or violence or prostitution, or really like the urban hood areas of America, you know. So so I fit right in with that, you know. It was cool to be a part of that. Advice I would give is just, man, you know who you're around and know who's real, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that are fake. I would say get out of the gang lifestyle. There's a lot of older homies that want to use younger guys just to do their dirt and do their stuff, because they don't want to catch the heat for it, you know. I think there's a lot of older guys teaching youngsters how to sell drugs and do things that it's just sad, to tell you the truth. It's sad because these young people are very, very young and they don't know any better. So advice I would just give them is find an alternate route, you know. Bottom line, just find a different path, because it just leads to either prison or dead, you know. That's it. It's like there's no retirement plan. That's it. If you want to be a real gang member and you really want to, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, or you're going to die at a young age. That's it. And if that's what you want, you know, that's what you're going to get, you know. And it's the process of, it's just not a good life to live at all.
I'm Jennifer Carranza.
I'm UT Delgado.
Hi, my name is Diana Mendes.
Hi, my name is Karina Macias.
There's a loaded question. What my childhood was like, let's see. I'm probably get with the dynamics first. I'm half Cuban, and my grandmother has pretty archaic values and morals and whatnot. She came from Cuba in the 50s. So with her came sort of this very religious and kind of stern perspective in life. My mother, she worked 3 jobs, so my grandmother essentially raised me. My father left when I was 6. It was a pretty abusive household, and so he was later sent to prison for a few things, so we grew up without a father. My mother had worked, so we barely knew her. I have a twin sister who's 7 minutes older than I, and then I have an older sister who's about 2 years. So we raised each other. And with some help from my grandmother, it was a little difficult for me because we were sort of raised to be women, and not necessarily independent women, because in my grandmother, who's born in 1922, she believed in finding a man who's going to take care of you, and then you have his babies, and that's your role as a woman. And she's been through, everything, and plus living in Cuba was pretty difficult. So she essentially raised us with the mentality that you become what you can as a woman so that you can find some rich man to take care of you and have his babies, and that's your life. And for me, it was kind of like, well, that doesn't sound very much fun. And nor is that what I'm passionate about. So I was always very driven in school. I loved the education, but for most part, it was where I was seen as a person and not as what my family had raised me to be. So it was definitely conflicting. There was a lot of challenges that we were faced, not only just with poverty and not having essentially anybody at home, especially a role model or a father. It was pretty difficult. I was later 16, and we moved around a ton. My mother got pregnant and decided that she was going to move to the East Coast. And I was a sophomore. And my twin and I kind of just said, well, we don't want to go. She said, well, you weren't really invited. So we emancipated ourselves, which was a big process. We had jobs, we bought a car, we made it on our own, we got an apartment, and finished high school. Yeah. So that was kind of my childhood in a nutshell. Gosh, I struggled with that for a long time. I struggled with this person people expected me to be, and the person that I wanted to be, and was very tight-lipped about a lot of it. I was raised to be obedient, and that meant even if somebody was telling you something that you didn't want to hear, that you couldn't necessarily fight back against it. And it was really hard because I'm very opinionated, and I had lots of things to say, and they probably weren't well accepted maybe, but I felt like I needed to say it. I became a yes person instead of a no person. And a lot of that was because I was so young and naive, and I didn't know how to communicate in that way, because that's how I was raised. You don't say no to grandma, and you always do what you're told, and I was raised that way to have that respect. And because I respected her so much, I was very obedient. When we were on our own and I was working, I became the same person. When an employer said, I need you to work this day, it's yes, yes, yes. Even if I couldn't do it, I would still find a way because I didn't want to disappoint. And then it became this expectation. And I felt like what I wanted didn't necessarily correspond with that expectation, and then I was in college and I was still this, ongoing yes person, but it wasn't until I traveled the world and had some very trying experiences then too that I learned how to say no, and I learned how to be strong in my convictions and, you know, believe in my voice and carry that through. And so that later became my identity, was leaving, finding out who I am, shutting everything out. You know, when you're in a third world country where you're living, you know, under a teepee, you know, and everything that you know and is familiar with is completely gone, there's something very humbling about that experience that really makes you dig deep. And especially in situations where, you know, I was alone, I'm a woman, I have very fair features which stand out in, you know, very diverse countries. It was very hard, and you learn that you have to say no, and you have to push back, and you have to stand up for yourself. And that was what that experience taught me. And that, I think, is where I learned to be okay with saying no and having conviction and sharing that, even if somebody else doesn't like it. Yeah. I think, bottom line, in order to be a happy, productive, effective, contributing person, you have to be true to yourself, first and foremost. And I believe that if someone truly loves you unconditionally, that they'll hear you, but you have to stay true to yourself and believe in that, and believe that no matter what you do and what you say, as long as you believe in yourself, you will end up in a good place. And so my advice to anybody is just believe in yourself enough to know that even though you're in a circumstance that's super challenging and whatnot, that you'll be okay. And that there is someone who will understand and who will love you, and you'll be a better person in the end.
Hi, my name is Yael Garcia.
My name is Yoshi Hernandez.
Hi, my name is Blake Chavez.
Hi, my name is Loma Lopez.
Hi, my name is Rita Mesa.
Hi, my name is Ale Alvarado.